A century ago, the Tower of Malevolence brought humanity to the edge of extinction. Legendary heroes known as the Founders arose to shatter the tower and save our species. In the modern age, Kanagi Manato stares at a library book, dreaming of such greatness. However, his reality is a cold notification on his phone screen. The words confirm that he has failed the Hunter's qualification exam for the third year in a row. His classmates laugh and mock him, calling him a disgrace to those who bear the seal. Kanagi silently gathers the trash in the room, accepting his role as the forgotten failure. He stares at the mark on his hand, the crest of nothingness that offers him no power. A charismatic voice suddenly calls his name from the school gates. It is Hizaki Kisei, the A-rank prodigy surrounded by a swarm of reporters. Hizaki pulls Kanagi into the spotlight, pretending to be his generous mentor. Whispering in his ear, Hizaki tells Kanagi that a loser like him should just be grateful to be a prop. Kanagi forces a smile for the cameras, his heart breaking under the weight of the lie. After school, Hizaki orders him to the Founders' Mausoleum for a special documentary shoot. The mausoleum is a sacred place where the spirits of the first heroes are said to rest. Upon arriving, Kanagi finds Hizaki's men digging up the sacred grounds. He realizes that the great hero Hizaki is nothing more than a common grave robber. Kanagi lunges at the A-rank hunter, unable to stand such a desecration of his idols. Hizaki effortlessly strikes him in the stomach, sending him collapsing into the dust. A henchman discovers a mysterious circular crystal, glowing with an otherworldly light. Hizaki explains that Kanagi has served his purpose as a decoy and witness. He grabs Kanagi by the collar and holds him over the edge of a raging river. With a final mocking goodbye, Hizaki lets go and watches the failure fall. Kanagi plunges into the icy water, his life flashing before his eyes. As his consciousness fades, a strange golden glow begins to envelop him. Spectral figures materialize in the depths, their voices echoing in his mind. One spirit points at his hand, calling it the perfect crest of nothingness. They offer him a choice to form a contract with a single heroic soul. Kanagi refuses a single soul, demanding the power of all 1,000 heroes. The Founders are stunned by his audacity, warning that no vessel can contain such energy. Kanagi screams as 1,000 lights rush into his chest at once. Back in the physical world, the river surface erupts in a massive pillar of light. Hizaki and his men watch from the hill, shielding their eyes from the blast. Kanagi emerges from the water, landing on the hill with a sound like thunder. One of Hizaki's men laughs, calling the boy a roach that refuses to die. Kanagi ignores them, reaching out to break a small branch from a nearby tree. The henchman snickers, asking if the failure intends to fight with a stick. Kanagi closes his eyes, feeling the expertise of 1,000 warriors guiding his arm. He whispers that he will no longer be forgotten. With a single motion, the branch leaves a trail of golden light through the air. The henchman screams as blood sprays from his chest, his armor sliced like paper. Hizaki steps back in fear, unable to process the aura radiating from the failure. Kanagi points the branch at Hizaki, his presence weighing down the very earth. He asks the hero to remember the name of the man who will end his legend. From the shadows of the mausoleum, a dark bag begins to leak a black, oily smoke. The seal on the ancient boss monster has been broken by Hizaki's greed. Kanagi senses the catastrophe arriving just as his new powers begin to burn his veins. He has the spirits of 1,000 heroes, but the war has only just begun. The morning sun rose over the academy, but the atmosphere remained heavy with the lingering shock of the previous day's events. Kanagi walked through the halls, his body still aching from the recoil of the spirit's power he had borrowed. Students whispered as he passed, still convinced he was the same talentless failure they had always known. Suddenly, a professor intercepted him with a stern expression, ordering him to the field for an unprecedented re-examination. Standing at the starting line of the 100-meter track, Kanagi felt a new kind of energy coursing through his veins. With a single explosive movement, he blurred across the finish line in a staggering 1.2 seconds, leaving the sensors smoking. The crowd fell silent as the scoreboard flashed a record that shattered the previous academy best by more than half. He moved to the strength testing station, lifting massive weights as if they were made of nothing but air. Next came the magic measurement test, where he was required to spin a giant industrial fan using only his mana. As he released his internal energy, the fan spun so violently that it detached from its mountings and tore through the arena. The loose turbine blade sliced through the air and crashed directly into the headmaster's office in the main tower. From the shadows of the wreckage, a man with a casual demeanor and overwhelming presence appeared, watching Kanagi with interest. This was Chihara Midori, the world's strongest awakened, who had come personally to witness the boy who broke the scales. Midori issued a sudden challenge, stating that Kanagi would only truly pass if he could land a single hit on him within 60 seconds. Kanagi lunged forward with a flurry of strikes, but Midori dodged every move while casually checking his phone. The spirit of the founder Hinoki surged within Kanagi, unable to tolerate the legendary hunter's blatant disrespect. Kanagi's movements shifted instantly, his speed reaching a level that forced Midori to finally drop his device and engage. They clashed in mid-air, a symphony of steel and mana that shook the very foundations of the academy. As the timer ticked down to the final seconds, Kanagi channeled every ounce of his remaining strength into a single, desperate punch. To Midori's surprise, the boy deflected his final defense with a gentle motion and landed a clean strike on the hunter's jaw. Both warriors collapsed to the ground as the buzzer sounded, the field around them reduced to a smoking crater. Midori sat up and laughed, officially declaring that Kanagi had passed and was now his newest comrade. Later that night at home, Kanagi's peaceful dinner was interrupted by the arrival of a dangerous visitor. He found his mother collapsed on the floor, poisoned by a man sitting casually at their table. This was Haitani Goru, an S-rank hunter and a rogue member of the unit who intended to use Kanagi as a puppet. Kanagi didn't hesitate, catching Haitani's strike and throwing the assassin through the backyard wall in a single motion. He called upon the god of medicine Valentine within his soul to neutralize the lethal toxins spreading through his mother's system. Turning back to Haitani, Kanagi utilized the secret techniques of 5 different founders to systematically dismantle the S-rank hunter. He unleashed a combination of spear thrusts and alchemy that left the rogue hunter incapacitated and trembling in fear. Midori and his secretary Ren arrived shortly after, repairing the house and confirming the S-rank's defeat. The next morning, Kanagi said a tearful goodbye to his mother as he prepared to leave for the secret headquarters. He opened the lunchbox she had packed, finding a small note of encouragement that strengthened his resolve. The car arrived at a massive, hidden fortress known as the Anti-Prophecy Headquarters, a facility shielded from the world. Upon entering, he was immediately attacked by a young man who launched a powerful kick to test his reflexes. Kanagi blocked the strike with ease, meeting the gaze of his new teammate, Hanada Hikaru. Hanada explained their mission, to prevent the catastrophic events foretold in the Book of Doom. Kanagi realized that the world's survival rested on their shoulders, and his training with the founders was just beginning. He spent the night in a deep trance, sparring with the spirit of the founder Hinoki in a void-like dimension. The alarm blared through the base, signaling the emergence of a new Rank 3 prophecy in the heart of Tokyo. But as they prepared to depart, Kanagi sensed a presence within the base that didn't belong to any hunter. A shadow moved behind the server racks, carrying a book that hummed with the energy of the apocalypse. The path of the hero had truly begun, but the Book of Doom was already writing his final chapter. The ink of the Book of Doom began to bleed across the sky, turning the horizon into a canvas of shifting shadows. Kanagi stood at the vanguard of the elite unit, his eyes fixed on the towering rifts opening above the capital. Beside him, Captain Makoto adjusted his heavy silver gauntlets, the runes on his armor flickering with dying light. Suddenly, the first of the 12 apostles descended, a winged monstrosity draped in frozen chains. Without a word, Makoto lunged forward, his massive claymore carving a path through the sudden blizzard. Kanagi activated the crest of Nothingness, feeling the weight of 1,000 souls surging through his veins. He summoned the spirit of the first founder, molding the spectral energy into a razor-sharp spear of light. The battlefield erupted into chaos as more apostles emerged from the shadows, each more twisted than the last. Makoto took the brunt of the assault, blocking a strike from a giant scythe that cracked the earth beneath him. "Don't stop, Kanagi," the captain roared over the sound of shattering steel. Kanagi bypassed the front lines, moving like a blur as he targeted the apostles' core crystals. With a single thrust, he shattered the chest of the third apostle, turning the beast into a cloud of ash. But the sky grew even darker as the apostle of despair unleashed a wave of absolute zero cold. Makoto planted his feet, pouring every ounce of his life force into a final, protective barrier. The frost consumed his limbs, but the captain did not move, his eyes locked on Kanagi's retreating back. Kanagi felt the captain's mana flicker and vanish, a cold void opening in his chest. A scream of pure agony and rage tore from his throat, echoing across the frozen wasteland. The 1,000 spirits within him began to sing in unison, their voices merging into a single divine melody. His hair turned a brilliant, blinding white, and his eyes radiated the power of an ancient sun. "I am the vessel of the fallen, and I will not let their legacy end in ice," he whispered. He raised the simple wooden branch, and it transformed into a sword of pure primordial fire. With a single swing, the frost wave was vaporized, and the Apostle of Despair was torn asunder. Kanagi charged the remaining apostles, a streak of white fire cutting through the darkness of the apocalypse. The surviving hunters watched in awe as the no-magic failure became the savior of the world. Finally, only the architect of the Book of Doom remained, a shadow figure holding the records of fate. "Your story ends here," Kanagi declared, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years. The two forces clashed, creating a shockwave that threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. The architect tried to rewrite Kanagi's death, the ink of fate wrapping around his throat like a noose. "I am the nothingness that cannot be written," Kanagi yelled, the crest burning with infinite power. He drove his blade into the heart of the Book of Doom, igniting the pages with the flame of the Founders. The darkness began to dissolve, replaced by a gentle, warm rain that washed away the ash of war. Kanagi landed softly beside the frozen statue of Captain Makoto, his white hair slowly fading back to black. He placed his hand on the ice, and a soft glow melted the frost, revealing the captain's peaceful, final smile. "You did it, boy," a spectral voice echoed in his mind, the 1,000 spirits finally finding their rest. The world was saved, but the cost was etched into the broken landscape of the city. Kanagi stood up, gripping the wooden branch that had now permanently become a relic of legend. He knew that while the prophecy was broken, new stories would always be written by the living. The boy who once had nothing now carried the weight and the hope of an entire era. He would lead the new generation of hunters, teaching them that true magic is found in the heart's resolve. The hero of nothingness had finally found his place in the world, a legend that would never be forgotten. And so the era of the Crest of Nothingness ended, giving birth to an era of eternal light.